Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Erin, and today my book review is going to be on The Outsider by Stephen King, which I was so looking forward to reading as soon as I heard it had come out, which it came out I think in May of this year, or at least sometime early this year. And I love Stephen King. I love him so much. However, I'm not a huge fan of all his books. I think he's really smart. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a great author. However, most of his books don't really fly with me. Like, I find them to be too wordy to the point of boring. Like, oh, this is so sad because I love Stephen King. But I read It by him like last year. And I love the movies. I've seen both of them. I loved them both. And the book was so boring. Like, I mean, like, unnecessarily boring. And, like, I love him. I do. I think he's brilliant. But, like, there are just some of his books that I just don't like. I hated Insomnia. Carrie was okay, which it's one of my favorite movies, so it's unfortunate that I didn't really care for the book. What else by him? My favorite book by him, all-time favorite book by him, is Needful Things. That is 100% the best book he's ever written. It's not too wordy, it's not boring, it's very fast-paced, it's very detailed, but in a fun way, not in a way. So I love Stephen King. I do. I have not read every single one of his books, granted. I mean, I'm just picking them up as I go, buying books and like trying to figure out which ones I like and stuff like that. So I have not read all of his books, but I do find that I like less than I love some. Does that make sense? Like, I like less of them than I love them. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. I know if there are people that are like diehard Stephen King fans, which I mean, I am. I love Stephen King. There are just some things about him that I'm not too fond of. I actually hated The Shining, the movie. I hate that movie. I hate it. It's one of my least favorite Stephen King movies, but I actually loved the book. It's one of my top 5 at least. So, I mean, it just depends for me, honestly. It's hit or miss with his books. So I was really, really excited when this one came out because I just had been on a kick of reading Stephen King and I just wanted to read it. Anyways, so this is called The Outsider, if you didn't know, and I love the cover of this. I think it's creepy. I think it's scary. It's because, okay, when you look at it upside down, that just looks so more creepy than this. I mean, this is creepy too. Don't get me wrong. This is terrifying if you looked it up like that. But there's just something about the upside down version. I don't know. I don't like it. It freaks me out. But I mean, I like it. Like, I think it's a good cover. It drew me in for sure. So, with that said, I am going to make a slight warning at this because if you are sensitive to murder, like murder scenes, violent murders, especially with children, you might not like this book because there are some very graphic rape murder scenes. Not scenes, you don't actually see it, but you hear about it, and they're very detailed, and if you're very sensitive, I probably wouldn't recommend reading those scenes because it's not the whole book, but it is about that. That's the whole point, is this child. So just a warning, if you are sensitive to violent acts towards children, especially rape, I would not suggest reading them because this is very, very violent. So let's read the plot so I can, well, the back of the book, but it's actually the inside. You know what I mean. Anyways, okay. An 11-year-old boy's violated corpse is found in a town park. Eyewitnesses and fingerprints point unmistakably to one of Flint City's most popular citizens. He is Terry Maitland, the Little League coach, English teacher, husband, and father of 2 girls. Detective Ralph Anderson, whose son Maitland once coached, orders a quick and very public arrest. The case seems ironclad, especially when Anderson and the district attorney are able to add DNA evidence to go with the fingerprints and witnesses. But Maitland has an alibi, and it turns out his story has incontrovertible evidence of its own. How can 2 opposing stories be true? What happens to a family when an accusation of this magnitude is delivered? When must reason or rationality be abandoned in order to explain the inexplicable? As the investigation expands and horrifying answers begin to emerge, King's propulsive story kicks into high gear, generating strong tension and almost unbearable suspense. Terry Maitland seems like a nice guy, but is he wearing another face? When the answer comes, it will shock as only Stephen King can. So, basically, this little boy is brutally murdered. I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to talk about stuff like that. It's very, 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 very gross, very graphic. So he is violently murdered, and the police are called to the scene, and obviously it's gross, it's horrific, like they want to catch this guy ASAP, and all the evidence is pointing at this like super awesome, great part of society. This guy, Terry, is like, he's a Little League coach, he's a teacher, he's a father, he's nothing that you would expect a violent, disgusting murderer to be. I mean, you know that can happen, but you don't want that to be, and it's usually not likely to be those people. So, they have such strong evidence against him. I mean, they have witnesses putting him with the kid, they have people seeing him with blood on him, they have his DNA all over the crime scene. It's very positive that it's him. So they arrest him at a Little League game in front of everyone, the whole town, and it is horrible because this guy was loved by everyone and now everyone hates him because he murdered this child. And he's so confused. He's like, I didn't do this. And he has proof. There's literally a videotape of him at the place he said he was during the entire time he should have been murdering this child. So it's crazy because there's evidence, but then there's more evidence that it's not him, like really good evidence. Like it's not him, but it is him. So the detectives are kind of confused. They're very like, they don't know what to think because it should be him. It should be him. It is him, you know? And there are some things that transpire. I can't name all of it, but they're basically Terry and his family are like outcasts now. I mean, everybody hates them, like hates them. And some things happen, which I can't talk about. And then the detectives find out that there was a similar case in a different state that's almost identical. It was this guy who brutally murdered these little girls, and all his DNA was there. He didn't have as good of an alibi as Terry did, but people saw his face, they saw him. I mean, his DNA was everywhere, obviously, so it's pretty much the exact same. And the detectives are very confused because it doesn't make sense. It's not rational. You know what I mean? Like, someone can't look like someone else identical with their DNA and be pretending to be them. So what happens is they end up having to come together, this group, the prosecuting attorney, the defense attorney, the police, well, only like 2 or 3 detectives are involved, and then like a private investigator, and then Terry's family and Ralph's family, who is the main character in the book. He's the main detective, and his family's involved, and they get this group together. And this is where Stephen King intertwines his book Finders Keepers. If you've ever read that, I have not. My mom has read it, but one of the characters in that book is also in this book, and they work together to figure out what's going on and why this person is able to look like someone they are not. And I will state that this is a supernatural book. So it does have elements of the supernatural. I'd probably go more like demonic supernatural. I do think it is a demon. Depending on how you look at it, when they explain what's happening, I would consider it more of a demonic spirit, but that's just what I go off of. But it is supernatural in that aspect. I'm trying not to give too much away because I don't want you guys to figure it all out if you want to read it for yourself. So yeah, the ending was really, 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 really good. So I was actually very pleased with the ending to this book, because sometimes Stephen King leaves me with an ending I didn't ask for, and it makes me very upset. Well, it's new, but anyways, so this one actually ended really good. But I really liked the ending. I thought it was a very satisfying ending for a Stephen King book. But yeah, anything else to add? So like I said previously, I don't care for Stephen King books because they're very rambly, they're very long and wordy and boring and all that. So I will say that this book is very long, 560 pages. So this is 560 pages long. So it's a pretty decently long book for him. I mean, he likes to do the big books anyways, so it's pretty long. But I will say that I did not find this book to be boring. It was actually very, very fast paced for me. I was able to just keep reading and reading and reading and without stopping, and not like want to not pick it up like I did with it. I had like a 3-month gap where I just didn't touch it because I didn't want to read it because it was so boring for me. But this one I really, really liked, and I was able to just like keep reading and keep reading and keep reading. There's a lot of like police work involved. Like they do talk about, like, they do investigations and stuff like that, and I really like that aspect. I'm very into like police work and crime scenes and stuff like that. I'm very interested in that, so it was not boring for me in that aspect. It wasn't hard to follow along with. Yeah, I mean, it was actually a very good book. I would have to say this is at least in my top 3 now. Needful Things will always be number 1. I love Needful Things. If you're looking for a good Stephen King book and you struggle slightly like me, I would pick up this one or Needful Things, because they're very, very easy to read. Not easy to read, but I mean, they're easier to follow along with, and they have a good plot, and it's a very exciting, and like it makes you want to read more. So those 2 are definitely like my top for suggestions if you struggle with Stephen King kind of like I do. If not, I would just suggest reading them anyways because they're really good Stephen King books. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to hit about this book. I think I mentioned everything. I don't want to give too much away about the book because in case you guys actually do read it, like I said, I don't like to give too much away because I don't know if you guys are gonna actually read these books or not, or if you're just looking for suggestions. But if so, I don't want to give you too much away, so then you're like not surprised. You know what I mean? Like, I know some people don't like being like having their stuff spoiled, which I totally understand, and I don't want to spoil things for people that don't want it spoiled, you know what I mean? But like I said, like if you ever want a book spoiled, literally like leave a comment down below and I will spoil whatever you want. Like, no big deal. Like, I'm down to tell you, but that's just if you want to be told. I don't want to tell people that don't want to be told. So I literally don't know what else to say about this book. I don't think I missed anything. There's a lot of the plot I did not tell you. Obviously, there's 500 pages worth of stuff that I didn't mention. I just wanted to give you the brief synopsis of the fact that Terry was, you know, involved, and he was supposedly the murderer, but according to the evidence, but also his alibi, he was not the murderer. It's very complicated. It's confusing when you don't know what's going on, because I don't know, it's hard to read because I was so sure Terry wasn't the killer. Like, as from the second I read the back, I was like, well, he's not it, because like, how could he be in 2 places at once? That doesn't make sense. So I mean, you kind of know that it's not him, but like, sometimes you doubt yourself. So I know that didn't tell you much about this book. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but it's a really good book, and you guys should read it if you like Stephen King, or if you don't like Stephen King and you want to give him another chance. This one's really good. Or Needful Things. Guys, Needful Things. Don't sleep on that book. It's a great book. Needful Things and this one. Top two. But yeah, I'm sorry if this book review was all over the place. I kind of forgot that I was going to film it, and then yeah. I'm sorry. So yeah. Leave me a comment down below if you've read this book, or it's on your list, or now you want to check it out, or you have suggestions for other Stephen King books for me to check out. I would love to hear them. Yeah. Just leave me a comment, give me a like, subscribe to my channel, and I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you guys later. Bye!